Hello, thank you for joining us. Today is Friday, July 17th. My name is David Parker. I'm producer-director with Creatus Media, and I'm here with Dr. Shana Clark for Ask Dr. Shana. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, I heard recently of two families, one of whom has handled the coronavirus problems very badly, and the other that handled them very well. And so I just am going to tell those two stories, and I hope the viewers will get the idea of the differences. And take more after the second family that did well. I'm going to tell the sad story first, because you know that there's a good story coming after it. Now, I'm also going to comment that I have my 4th of July stars and stripes in all kinds of guises on my shirt. I should have worn this on the 3rd of July, but maybe it's not a bad state of mind to have right now. This is a big and country with a proud history. Now, we do have some negative things, like having allowed slavery at one time and having had terrible treatment of the Native Americans. But we also have some very proud things. And that's what I'd like you to focus on from now until the end of the coronavirus pandemic and all the disruptions that's caused. Now, I first will tell the story of the sad story of a family that essentially fell apart. There were only 2 children in this family, so on the surface, they didn't need as much money as the next family, which had 5 children. But they began with not negotiating anything with the bank that held their mortgage, and they didn't do anything about it. They just let it slip. And of course, that put the bank in a foreclosure mode. And I would say that the first thing that any American family doesn't want, or any family actually, is to lose their home. This family paid nothing because Dad, who had a job, was sent home, and he wasn't one of the lucky ones that was either essential or told he could work from home. And so he did get the $600 that you could get as an unemployed person, but he didn't think about how to budget this and what to supplement it with, because a family of 4, 2 parents and 2 children, doesn't do well on $600. And they just said, oh my God, what's ever going to become of us? And never got around to thinking about it. And so the house was foreclosed. The father ended up living on the sidewalk and begging passersby for a little bit of food. The mother she moved into the house of a man because she thought he would support her children, which turned out not to be the case. The children were taken into foster care, and mom was with this other guy. In other words, when the house was foreclosed, as I said, they fell apart because they had not done anything to try to have a different outcome.
Was this a local family, or where did this occur?
This is local,
Okay.
near Rochester. I don't want to identify the people because it would embarrass them so much. Okay, now, the second family, Dad was a low to medium level executive, and he was known as a very reliable worker who occasionally came up with a good slogan for the company which produced consumer products, and occasionally would have a good idea about how to solve a company problem. And as I said, they had 5 children, and one of the first things they did when they found out that they were going to be sent home for an indefinite period was go talk to the bank about their mortgage. And specifically, there is another big Midwestern bank trying to move into town, and so they offered lower interest rates and lower monthly payments, and it was just the perfect offer to make. So they went to this new bank, and Dad pointed out that he had been paying a mortgage on his home for nearly 20 years because he's in his mid-40s, and so they managed to refinance it for much lower interest rate, a longer term, and all of that takes the pressure off how much you have to pay right now. And Dad spoke to one of the officers and said, since I've just lost my job, and at that precise time, the federal government said they were going to hand the unemployed something, but how much of a something and when exactly they were going to fork it over was up in the air. So Dad struck them as a very responsible and eager to pay as much as he could. So, which got the bank away from foreclosure mode I told you with the other family, they didn't do a darn thing except skip a couple of mortgage payments. Well, that got the bank towards moving to foreclosure. And Dad's presentation was so clear-headed and realistic that he got the bank thinking, boy, we have a really good customer here. We could be his source of lending for months or years. And so that's the first thing that he did a little differently. Now, you have to realize Dad was never the person not to pay a bill. So it was a little uncomfortable saying, I don't know what my income is. But he was so real about it that the bank was impressed anyway. Now, he then found out that because he had been told to go home and they hadn't said he could work from home, they hadn't said he couldn't work from home, they hadn't made a decision. But this was uncomfortable because he didn't know what he was dealing with. And he found out that in his small town, they were desperately looking for garbage collectors. Now, you would think that somebody who's used to wearing a suit to work and is a low to mid-level executive wouldn't become a garbage collector. But you see, Dad was a person who had been working out since he first hit college, and he worked out every day. So he had sort of bulging biceps, and so was entirely believable as a candidate for a garbage truck job. And he took that job because, you know, the garbage collection company said your salary would be so much, whereas the company he had been told to go home from wouldn't say what his future was. They just couldn't make up their minds. So he became a garbage collector, and you know what? There was a benefit for him in this, because before, this company, which was a consumer products company, was always wanting him to come up with a new slogan for something or a way of solving a company problem. And so he felt that he had lots of demands on his time after his day at the office was over. And guess what? As a garbage collector, he went early in the morning, stopped at every place he was required to stop in, collected the garbage, and at the end of 8 hours, he was free. They never sent him home with think about this or come up with a slogan for that. So, and since he started at 6 o'clock in the morning, he finished at about 2. So that was perfect for being home when the kids came home from school and teaching them a lot of things. And he was a man who enjoyed his kids. He enjoyed them from when they were born. So he thought this was quite a plus. His wife, meanwhile, was known in the small town as a fantastic baker. And would you believe she got a job in a bakery? A part-time job. But she also sold some things she made at home. And the bakery, since that was just a small addition to her salary, it wasn't a major thing, they just said, well, people are entitled to bake, and they let her do it. So she brought home quite a bit of money. Now, the 12-year-old boy had been wanting to rescue a puppy that was in the ASPCA pound, and his parents told him that if he could make $15 a week, that would be enough to rescue the puppy. He got a paper route for a small paper that still manages to exist because it's very local news that bigger papers don't really bother with. But he only earned $12. So what is he going to do to make it up to 15? Well, his little sister, who was a great aficionado of her fish tank, did some research and found out that there was a company that would sell her the same fish food as she had been buying, but for $3 cheaper a week. And she brought home a little bit of money, put that together with her older brother's money, and they were able to rescue the dog. So here's a family that's together enough to be able to rescue a dog at a time when a lot of people were abandoning their dogs, and being very cruel. And the older sister began to do some cutting hair, manicures, and she earned a little bit of money from that. Plus, she also said no problem if she didn't get any new clothes this coming fall. And she wore last year's clothes with pride, she said, because I'm not going to be selfish and having my father and my mother take different jobs and, I'm just sitting there spending all the money for them. I'm going to be kind to my parents and say, no new clothes? Hey, that's fine. And so everybody in the family pulled together. Oh, and there's a 4-year-old little boy, and he was giving the job of, if ever he saw, well, everybody in the family was older than he was, but if ever he saw somebody heading out of the room without turning the lights out, he would pipe up and say, you didn't turn the lights out. And the family were instructed to say, thank you, Theodore. No nasty cracks. Because they saved money on their electric bill. I mean, A person would turn on the light to go into the bathroom, and Theodore was there when they came out to say, "Don't forget to turn the light out." And so between all of them, they're making it quite nicely. And they're not feeling sad or it's a come down, because Dad sat them down and said, "Look, things happen in the world, and sometimes your standard of living goes up, and sometimes there's a national crisis and your standard of living goes down. But that doesn't mean you have to be nasty, crabby, difficult. You just adjust your expenditures and it'll come out okay, especially if you get the whole family in on it."
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, what a lot of families may be doing now, because we're all coming to the realization that this coronavirus business started in January, and now it's July, and it's not over. And I hope we will start to talk to people whom we see on the street without a face mask and say, "You got to put your face mask on." We all do. And the thing that might be hard for some is that the wearer of the mask is not being protected from anything. The wearer of the mask is protecting other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, can we all get to the point of considering other people and finally have our infection rate? By the way, I'm going to brag for a moment here. In the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, New York, because of New York City, was the highest infection rate, the worst. I mean, it was just the pits. However, the state of New York has become the place with the lowest infection rate in the 50 states. So we are very slowly still opening up, and we haven't had to, as some states have, roll backwards and go, close things down again or something. I heard President Trump say that he was never going to wear a face mask. And then he got invited to a VA center for wounded people, and lo and behold, he turned up with a face mask on. I don't know who had the gumption to tell him, "Mr. President, you're going to have to put on a face mask." But he got the point and arrived with his face mask on. Kudos and praises, whoever you are, for being the people that convinced the president to wear a face mask.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all need to. Anyway, I spoke to a young lady. Just a minute. Oh. They'll stop eventually. I called them some time ago and they said they'd call back at noon, and I said, no, not at noon. But they didn't hear me. But if we could all think in terms of social distancing, I'm about to celebrate my 70th birthday. I have asked for only 3 or 4 people to be there. In other words, not 20 people, but 3 or 4, so as to make it possible to do social distancing in the room we're going to be in. I just feel so sad because we're up to 138, nearly 139,000 Americans dead from coronavirus. And if only people had stuck by the rules that they were given, that might be half that number. Mm-hmm. So it's just so sad. And I don't leave the apartment without a face mask on because I don't want to feel partially perhaps responsible if some one of my neighbors dies of coronavirus. I want to feel that I did everything that I was supposed to. And New York's infection rate is still going down. So we're still opening up little by little.
Well, the 2 stories that you told, the sad one obviously was extremely disappointing. However, the story of the family all pulling together is, similar to what New York State has done. They've all pulled together, and that's how we're going to always get ahead in life, whether it's with the coronavirus or no matter what challenges we face. It's always pulling together and thinking about others. That's how we move forward.
So I'm inviting some more people who may be seeing this tape to think about, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? And if not, could they change? I know I was speaking to a young lady in Phoenix last night, and she said there are an awful lot of people out there who resent being asked to put on face masks and don't want to do this and don't want to do that. And all I can say is, I suppose those people have not lost family recently. But I've come to consider the whole of New York State as my family. And in a way, I'm sorry that it's just New York State. But in another way, that means I have millions of family members that I never thought I had. And the thing is, if you think of somebody as a family member, you might have to say no about something, but you're not going to be nasty to them. And you're going to be considerate, and you're going to listen to them. I suppose that's all I have to say. It's just, it strikes me as so sad that we have people, I'm not going to say they're mean or selfish people, but they just don't understand that we're all in this together, quite literally. And if we don't know that we're all in this together, there will be less of us above ground than there could have been. So, and this young lady from Phoenix is going to be, she said she has an idea for a topic for my show that she is going to be putting on the comment page. And she also is going to take advantage of the fact that I posted my phone number, which is 585-730-0574, because I love to talk to people, and you can't tell me that you understand as much when you read an email, because the email does not give you the tone of voice, does not give you any of the many things that you can from an actual conversation. Anyway, so I'm inviting the viewers of this episode to call me between 4:30 and 6:30 Eastern Time any day of the week. So, until next week, and I hope I will still have you all as viewers.
Very good. We'll see you all next week.
Okay.